We didn't put that there. What I'm about to tell you has no explanation. It's the strangest thing I've ever experienced. And I don't mean that in a casual, over-the-top kind of way. I mean it in the dead serious, what the hell did I witness kind of way. And I say that as someone who's lived long enough to have had a few unsettling nights under their belt. But this one sticks. I work late hours at a dive bar about 30 minutes from my place. Not exactly glamorous, but out in the rural corners of the state you take what you can get. Towns are small. Opportunities are smaller. The bar itself isn't anything worth writing home about. Dim, smoky, full of regulars and the occasional drunk looking to unload their life story. But the work is steady and most nights pass without incident. The night it all began felt no different. I locked up just after 2 a.m., tossed the rag back into the sink and slipped into my car. It was one of those sticky, overcast nights where everything feels heavier than it should. My drive home is a familiar patchwork of winding, pitch-black back roads. No lights, no houses, just a long stretch of tarmac cutting through woods and farmland. Usually I enjoy the solitude of that ride. It's my decompression chamber, a time to let my mind wander or replay odd snippets of conversation I'd had at the bar. But that night, something was different. The fog came in like a wave, not a slow build, but like flipping a switch. One minute I could see the tree line. The next it was gone. The visibility dropped fast, thick enough that my brights only made it worse, illuminating a dense white wall like I'd just driven into a cloud. I eased off the gas, muttering under my breath, annoyed. The last thing I wanted was a longer drive. That's when I noticed it. Off to the right side of the road, somewhere in the curtain of fog, a blinking yellow light. It wasn't sharp or sudden, just faint and slow, like a beacon in the distance. At first I figured it was some kind of roadside marker or reflector. But the longer I drove, the more off it felt. The light never got closer, never got farther away. It just stayed. Like it was pacing me, following alongside. I started getting a weird feeling in my stomach. Not nausea, something worse. That kind of deep, primal instinct that says something's not right here. I slowed down to a crawl, watching to see if the light would change position. It didn't. Even when I coasted almost to a stop, the blinking remained constant. Same rhythm, same position, maybe 20 yards off into the trees, but impossible to judge in that soup of fog. The fear crept in slowly at first, like cold fingers curling around my throat. Then it spiked. I killed the car completely and waited. Still blinking. No sound. No movement. No wind? Just that steady yellow pulse growing brighter with each flash, like it was building or breathing. I reached down to turn the key again, intending to reverse and get the hell out of there. That's when I realized my engine wasn't just off, it was dead. Silent. I hadn't turned the key, hadn't touched anything. But the car was off completely. Even the dashboard was dark. Panic set in. I reached for my phone. Black screen. Dead. I knew it had battery, at least 20%. I checked it before locking up at the bar. But now, nothing. Like the charge had been sucked out of it. Like something outside the car was feeding off that energy. Off my energy. The light flared, bright. Blinding. I had to shut my eyes, shielding my face with my arms. I remember the heat on my skin, the intensity of it pressing through my eyelids. Then, just as suddenly as it came, it vanished. The fog remained, but the light, gone. I sat frozen for what felt like forever. Eventually, I turned the key. The engine sputtered to life like normal. Not a hiccup. Not a delay. I floored it the rest of the way home, eyes forward, refusing to glance into the fog again. I've told that story more times than I can count. Friends, family, even the regulars at the bar. No one has an explanation that feels right. They joke about UFOs, swamp gas, ball lightning. But none of it makes sense. I wish I could say that was the end of it. A few months later, I was on another late-night haul. I sometimes do long-haul trucking gigs when bar money runs thin. This particular job had me crossing the state, moving a load of medical supplies to a clinic out west. It was about 2 a.m. again. Funny how things like that happen. I was cruising through a desert stretch, one of those remote highways with no exits for miles. No lights. No other cars. Just me and the truck with the stars scattered overhead. Then I noticed it. In the side mirror, a dark SUV was tailing me. Not close, not aggressively, just there. Hanging back at a distance that was too deliberate to be random. I sped up slightly. So did they. Slowed down. They matched. For 40 minutes they shadowed me like that. I kept checking the mirror. No movement. No attempt to pass. Just presence. I finally pulled off at a rest stop. Nothing but a gravel lot, a couple of vending machines, and a single flickering bulb-casting sickly yellow light across the dust. I figured they'd pass me by, but they didn't. They pulled in too. Parked way at the edge of the lot. Didn't get out. Didn't turn the lights off. Just sat there. Rage got the better of me. I climbed out of the cab, ready to confront whoever it was. But before I even got close, the SUV screeched out of its spot, fishtailed, and tore back onto the road like the driver had just realized I was real. Their windows were tinted. I couldn't see who was inside. Couldn't catch the plate. Just red tail lights disappearing into blackness. That should have been the end of it, but I couldn't shake the feeling they'd come back. And I was right. I tried to nap after that, thinking I could just rest for an hour and clear my head. But something woke me. A faint sound, crunching gravel. I cracked the blind. Two figures crouched near my trailer's rear wheels, inspecting the latches with a flashlight and, God help me, bolt cutters. Cargo thieves. I hit the air horn. They bolted. The SUV came screaming back out of the dark, no lights on, scooped them up and vanished. Cops later confirmed the pry marks on my trailer were fresh. Said thefts like that were more common than I'd think. They said I got lucky. Lucky didn't feel like the right word. Weeks passed. Then months. I didn't sleep well during that time. I stayed off back roads as much as I could. I avoided night shifts. But eventually, I started to feel normal again. Until the last night drive. It was a summer night, and I was in my dad's M3. I don't often joyride, but I needed to blow off steam, and those tight, twisting back roads had always been my therapy. So I took the exit, dropped into lower gears, and let the car hug the curves. No music. Just the sound of air whipping past the open window and the purr of the engine. That's when I saw it. A flicker. Reflective metal. I slammed the brakes just in time to stop short of a shopping cart, just sitting dead center in the road. Midnight. Empty farmland. No houses. No stores. And a shopping cart. I put the car in park, turned on the hazards, and stepped out, drawn by some combination of curiosity and disbelief. It was empty. Just a cart. Then I saw the movement. Two figures burst from the farmland, sprinting straight toward me. I didn't think. I ran. Slammed the start button. One of them hit the passenger side with a thud so hard I felt it shake the frame. He didn't even try to stop. Just full-force collision like he wasn't even aware of the car being there. I looked into his face, bloodshot eyes, torn clothing, wet hair plastered to his face, skin smeared with something dark. Blood. Dirt. Something worse. He fumbled with the handle. I snapped back, threw it in drive, and swerved around the cart. My tires chirped on the pavement. I didn't stop driving until I was back in my neighborhood. Later, when I pulled into the driveway, I walked around the car and nearly lost my breath. Blood. Spattered across the entire side of the M3, mirror, handle, quarter panel. It was too much. More than a person should be able to lose and still be standing. My dad went ballistic, of course. Dented panel, ruined paint, dried blood on his pride and joy. He didn't believe a word of my story until I showed him the dash.